Halo Firefight. So the surface problem right now is that it's completely not in Halo Infinite. There have been no trailers, no leaks, no mentions of it, and I would be genuinely shocked, absolutely shocked, if Firefight ever makes it to Halo Infinite. Because it seems like nobody actually cares. And the reason for this is actually universal to all the Halo games. Halo has two very huge communities, which are the PvP players and the PvE players. All the PvE players have is the campaign, which can be replayed, but will never actually change. In turn, they eventually leave and we're left with the PvP players because multiplayer in general has way more factors that keep people playing. And I'm gonna say this, as someone who has spent hundreds of hours on Halo multiplayer, Halo is a PvE franchise. It's not about Spartan versus Spartan, it's always been about human versus alien. That's just the truth. The PvE community has only had campaigns. Until Halo 3 ODST Firefight is a really big deal. This was the first PvE mode that wasn't campaign and it was beloved. Basically, Firefight was a survival mode with limited lives and your goal was to make it as far as possible. But actually it's just an okay mode. For one, the maps are not very interesting and the mode itself gets pretty stale after a while. Of course, it has its highlights, but it's not enough to fill that entire half that is PvE. But then you have Halo Reach. In a lot of ways, this is better than ODST Firefight. For one, the maps are better, and I prefer the overall gameplay of Halo Reach. There is this great experimental feature that lets you play as an elite fighting alongside the Covenant. Especially if you play this on the Halo Ring map with the Marines, it really offers a great multiplayer experience. But obviously, the problem is that it's still just Firefight. It gets boring, and it isn't the full potential of a multiplayer PvE experience. The significance of Firefight is the fact that it's the only PvE mode in Halo. But honestly, there's only so much you can do with this wave survival gameplay. It's still a good mode that will give you a lot more than the average game mode, but to fulfill the entire PvE side of Halo, obviously not enough. So we go to Spartan Ops. This is talked about as the replacement of Firefight, which it is. It's a different take on a PvE mode that acts more like Spec Ops, but with an entire story. Which the story is actually pretty good. It's well written and gives shine to the Infinity characters, but it's very loosely tied to the actual gameplay, which the gameplay is so bad. In theory it's cool, but essentially Spartan Ops is just extremely dumbed down campaign levels in Halo 4, which is trash. Maybe it could have been good if it was in a better Halo game, but it's essentially just a worse campaign, which maybe you like that, but it's just like the main campaign, it's never going to change. So that leaves us with Halo 5. Now I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but Warzone Firefight is the best PvE mode in Halo. Now first, why is this a controversial opinion? Well, it's very different from Firefight even though it's called Firefight. You don't really try to survive and you can't customize it. But the reason it's so good is because all the different objectives combined with the scale is just incredible. You have 7 other players on these big memorable maps with the biggest Halo sandbox ever for both weapons and enemies. Now obviously this is not Firefight, but it is a war zone. It has the most replay value and that's proven by the fact that in this dead ass game, you can still find matches easily. But is it perfect? No. The tragedy of Halo Firefight and PvE is that it's never reached its full potential, and it doesn't seem like anybody even wants it to. There's been some great ideas introduced, and I feel like it's just a matter of executing them well. But obviously, it might be too much to fit into one mode, but it shouldn't be one mode. The PvE community is just too big. The solution is to just give way more care and resources to fulfill that entire half of Halo.